This is the Palin Update on SarahNet Radio. I'm Kevin Scholla.
Well, hopefully people realize what Margaret Thatcher had explained, that the problem with socialism is eventually you run out of other people's money.
Sarah Palin made her voice heard loud and clear this past week. She called on the GOP to not go wobbly while defending the Tea Party movement. The governor also highlighted Thomas Sowell's take on the so-called fiscal cliff. Also, the governor praises Jim DeMint and throws her support behind a possible replacement for him in the Senate, and the governor's thoughts on the anniversary of the attack on Pearl Harbor. Cool to be kind. That's the message one group is spreading to students across the nation. We'll hear from Bo Whittenton, the National Coordinator of Schools and Community Programs for the Be Kind People Project. And just ahead, the latest Steel Resolve commentary with Sarah Steelman. First, we welcome Bo Whittenton to SarahNet Radio. She is with the Be Kind People Project, a group that recently aided and provided some comfort and entertainment for teachers and students affected by Hurricane Sandy in the New York area. And we are pleased to have Bo Whittenton on the Palin Update. Hi, Bo. Thanks for being here.
Oh, it's great to be with you, Kevin. Thank you for having me.
Now, before we dive into what your group did specifically to aid the victims of Sandy, let's tell our listeners a little bit about the Be Kind People Project. What does your group do?
Well, Kevin, we are a nonprofit organization, and we're building a national movement to cultivate a culture of kindness, if you will, by helping kindergarten through 8th grade students. We want them to experience joy and fun and fulfillment that comes from being kind to others, but we want them also to celebrate and thank, acknowledge, and honor their teachers and what their teachers' community means to them and their contributions to society.
Now, in response to the hurricane, the Be Kind People Project lent a hand to 10,000 New York area teachers and delivered classroom kindness kits to 250,000 students. What are these kits, and how did that project go overall?
Oh, I wish everybody could have been there. It was fabulous. The Classroom Kindness Kit, it consists of three, that twice yearly we deliver a Be Kind poster. And on that Be Kind poster is our Be Kind pledge. And all of the students take this pledge, and they pledge to be encouraging, supportive, positive, helpful, honest, considerate, thankful, responsible, respectful, and a friend, as they sign their Be Kind pledge card. So they get this poster, and they put it in their classrooms because it delivers the kindness message in a very colorful and kid-friendly way. And then it also suggests ways for the students to explore kindness through creative expression, and an entry form for some of our contests. We hold 3 annual kindness contests.
And students also enjoy these assemblies that you put on because, well, for one reason, they seem to be a lot of fun, a lot of energy there. You ran the It's Cool to Be Kind assemblies. How are they, and tell us how they work. I know that you get a great response everywhere you go.
Well, we do, but we just received a tremendous response in the New York City area. Our dancers are a troupe of talented young performers, and they deliver our kindness message using classical dance technique, and urban styles, hip-hop. We decided early on that those kids, they don't want to see us up there because we look like their mom. They want someone that they can relate to. And it is really indescribable for me to tell you how those students look as they watch these performers and listen to what they say. When we were in New York, the students, I literally watched their faces change as they heard this rap poetry, as they heard how to be kind and what does that mean. Our troupe did skits for the students, which makes very clear what the pledge means. And those kids were so anxious to sign that pledge, and they wanted to thank their teachers. They shouted out in the assemblies, thank you, and pointed to their teachers, and just to see the excitement in their face. And I think they really got it, that because I think that a lot of students spend more time, and simply because of the world in which we live, they spend more time at school with their teacher than they do with their parents. So what an impact that teacher has on that student. And it's just mind-blowing. There's really no way to describe it.
And you mentioned thanking teachers, which is big, and the kids also got to write cards to those who helped during the hurricane. That's a nice touch because it shows appreciation and thanks to who? The volunteers and responders, and also gives kids that feeling of giving thanks.
That is true. We also brought to the students in New York cards from Kansas City, Oklahoma, and the Phoenix area from students in schools in those cities, just encouraging notes, writing to someone who they will never meet, but encouraging them to get, that they can get through this and give them hope. And so to pay it forward, if you will, we brought notes, blank notes, and encouraged the students to write those thank yous, those encouraging notes to the first responders for the hurricane.
That's wonderful to see that from young people. You know, we talked about this recently with adults. A lot of the Katrina victims were helping the Sandy victims, just like the Sandy victims before they were victims helped those in New Orleans. So, you know, seeing it from young people is all the better to look toward the future because, after all, you know, Americans do come together when there are problems. Is stressing being kind really more important than ever in today's schools? We see so many cases of violence in schools, not only at kids, but bus drivers and teachers. There's a culture problem here, and if children aren't acting right, future adults won't either.
Well, that's true, and, you know, we just want to set the right example, and although we do not bill ourselves as an anti-bullying organization, we certainly are an alternative and a positive approach to it. Rather than saying, don't do this, we say, do this, be kind. And it is contagious. We have seen it even in, most recently in a school in Phoenix, they literally adopted another school, and every second grader in that school is getting a Christmas present for the second grader in the Title I school, because we go into a lot of underprivileged areas. So the kids are getting it, and it's interesting to hear them talk about how they go home and share this with their parents. And we just saw that in New York City because I remember one little girl came up to me, literally got out of her seat, and came over to where I was standing, and she looked at me and she said, "You look like a kind person." And I thought, wow, that's the biggest compliment anybody could have ever given me, because that is such a passion of ours to teach these students kindness is important, and it needs to start when you're young in the classroom, but acknowledge your teacher, because she is the one who will give you guidance and direction 7 or 8 hours a day.
Yeah, these kids, I mean, you know, and some of them are, you know, seeing their teacher a lot more than parents, not just a little more.
That's true. That's true. And these are the future leaders of our country. And I just think if we can start young and implant this desire in them to live in a way that helps others, commits themselves to others, then who knows? One of these, I was thinking about this when I was on the van in New York. I thought, you know, one of those kids that we saw today could easily one day become the President of the United States. You just don't know.
No, you don't.
So,
and you know, we hear this a lot, but you know, and our guest last week, who I know had a little bit involvement with your group too, Patty Millett, Justin Bieber's mother.
Yes.
I mentioned to her last week, I said, you know, who would think, you know, when you have a child, everyone says, oh, this could be the next president, or a doctor who cures a big disease, or you know, or at a lesser level, a pop star. But that's what happened with Patty, and you know, and so you're right. I mean, these are children, and even if you're not the president, certainly they're going to be those who take over this country in one way or another. Now, as far as Patty Millett, that must have been a good boost for your group.
Well, it was, and she was just delightful, and she let us take her picture with the Be Kind crew, our dance crew. And she really spoke to the kids and really encouraged them that they can take their lives and become something, regardless of where they come from as far as what's going on in their lives right now. And it was very encouraging. And, of course, when she said, my son is Justin Bieber, well, they went wild. The little girl behind me actually started crying.
Wow.
And told me that she was going to his concert. But I will tell you, my memory of her, other than being just delightful and cute as a button, is one of the students looked at me and said, "Are you Justin Bieber's grandmother?"
You could have signed autographs, Bo, see?
I know, really. I said, "No, honey, I'm not."
Listen, I got mistaken for a Cubs third baseman once when I was reporting on a Mets-Cubs game a few years back. A guy by the name of Shane Andrews. I came walking out of the press lot. A couple of kids, jumped at me. So you never know, but it's the situation, right? Now, where was the Millette event? Which state was that in?
It was in New York City.
Oh, okay. That was part of the effort. Great. Because I know that in Arizona, you also have some support from the Arizona Diamondbacks.
We do, and they've been wonderful. They, as one of the contests we have is a writing contest, how a minute of kindness can change a day. And our winners last year were honored at the Diamondbacks game on the field. They were on the Jumbotron. And those kids came from Title I underprivileged schools and probably, most likely, would never have an opportunity to even go to the ball game. So the Diamondbacks have been wonderful to us, and they are so involved in the community anyway, but they see the need for what we're doing, and they see the importance of acknowledging and celebrating our teachers.
Yeah, and that's another great aspect. You said, you have the pop culture thing. You talked about Bieber's mom. You talk about athletes. You see the D-backs who they, look up to, and when they hear them speak, or young people, like you said, it definitely hits home more. And I think another thing that's great here, Bo, is, Americans are so sick of the bickering in Washington, but here we can see bipartisan kindness, if you will, right? This is a group that everybody could get on board with.
Absolutely. And we actually have received commendations or recognition, if you will, from several governors, senators, mayors, and so we feel like that although we focus on teachers and students in the classroom, because that is at the heart of our mission to cultivate kindness in our nation, but our political leaders, they must play an active role in this. So we're just elated and pleased by the formal support that we've received from these leaders, if you will. We've received formal proclamations and letters of support from mayors from Los Angeles to Las Vegas, Philadelphia, New Mexico, Nevada, Arizona, of course, and Congressman Eleanor Holmes Norton of Washington. So they're getting the message, and we're just thrilled that they are.
Yes, I noticed some big names there stood out to me. I saw Governor Susana Martinez of New Mexico, just a rising star right now, and also Governor Mary Palin and Senator Inhofe in Oklahoma. So wonderful to see all hands on deck. Bo, tell us how can people help out and keep the ball rolling on this initiative?
Well, Kevin, most of all for us right now, they can recognize and thank their teachers in their community, realize the role that they play. What I saw in the teachers, and I met with a lot of teachers and principals, is I came away with the same conclusion every time. These people are doing that job because that is their passion. They love what they do, and they know it's important. And so that's what we really like people to do, is to thank the teachers in the community and then encourage the students, but also encourage everybody that kindness is something that needs to be cultivated. And in our fast-paced world today, we don't really take time for that. And so that's what we'd like to do. And then thirdly, if there are any companies or corporations that would like to partner with us and be involved with us, we would love that, and they can certainly do that. They can go to our website, which is www.thebekindpeopleproject.org.
I have teachers in my family. Governor Palin, of course, does as well. Her brother still teaching, and so, we see the everyday ins and outs of it. And, for everybody to have a better day and keep their learning and their kindness, as you said, kindness level up there. It's good stuff, Bo. We appreciate it, and best of luck with everything, and we'll check up on you again, see how things are going.
Okay, Kevin, let me ask you one question, and your listeners, and you don't have to answer this, but if I said to you and your listeners, did you have a favorite teacher? Someone's name just popped in your mind.
Sure.
We all had one.
Sure.
We all had one. So that's what I'll leave you with.
No, you're right. It's funny you said it that way. If you take a look back, you'd have to scroll down a while because she blogs a lot. But Bristol Palin brought that up, I want to say a few months back. She tweeted and also put a blog and said, your favorite teacher. And then she got a bunch of responses with, you wouldn't know the names from Adam. And people were just writing,
right.
Mr. Smith, Mrs. Anderson, whatever. But you know what?
Oh,
it got people
her.
thinking. Yeah, it was good stuff. So it's funny you mentioned that, and there's a connection there, too. But absolutely, and I believe I mentioned Mr. David, and who else did I put up there? Because I did put two. I probably Madame Farman in French for all of the hassle I put her through. That she gets a gold medal just for putting up with me in general. But
oh,
listen, Bo, pleasure.
Thank you so much, Kevin. I really enjoyed talking with you, and you have a wonderful evening.
Bo Whittenton of the Be Kind People Project. Check out thebekindpeopleproject.org. While John Boehner and the GOP establishment continue their shaky ways, Governor Palin remains steadfast and strong. This past week, she stated, quote, "We send good conservatives to D.C. to fulfill the promises they made to the electorate. And yet, when they stay true to their word, the permanent political class in their own party punishes them. This won't be forgotten come 2014. Right now, the GOP establishment is more concerned about the opinion of the media and the Georgetown cocktail circuit than they are we the people who hired them. For all this new talk of how the GOP needs a populist movement, it would do them good to remember they already have one. It's called the Tea Party movement, and it won for them the majority they now enjoy in the House." Unquote. Palin also directed people to an article by Matthew Boyle on Breitbart.com. We all know Thomas Sowell is a man Governor Palin respects, and she references him often. One of Sowell's newest pieces, Fiscal Cliff Notes, Parts 1 and 2, absolute must-reads. Check it out at townhall.com. Republican U.S. Senator Jim DeMint is resigning his Senate seat to take the helm of the Heritage Foundation. The 61-year-old was first elected to the Senate in 2004. Governor Palin says, quote, "We look forward to Jim DeMint's new leadership at the Heritage Foundation, and we're all grateful for his past leadership in the Senate," unquote. Governor Palin also gives a thumbs up for a possible successor to DeMint, saying Representative Tim Scott would be a great choice. Republican Governor Nikki Haley gets to appoint DeMint's successor to the Senate. Governor Palin reflected on the 1941 attack on Pearl Harbor, saying, quote, "Americans will never forget those who died on this day of infamy at Pearl Harbor 71 years ago, and we will never forget those who served in World War II and those who continue to serve in war zones today. We are thinking of our vets on this day, and we are thankful for them every day. Their sacrifices for America won't be taken for granted," unquote. All of us here at Serenet Radio also thank all of our vets. My grandfather served in World War II. God bless all that have served, and of course, the brave men and women in harm's way today. Now, our weekly commentary, Steel Resolve. Here's Sarah Steelman.
Thanks, Kevin. Most of the headlines today are the same as prior to the election. In fact, they're just like this time last year, except last year Congress was at least including a balanced budget amendment to the Constitution in their negotiations. 12 months and an election have passed, and discussion of a balanced budget has completely evaporated. There is no question that Congress must deal with the immediate issues at hand, which means not raising taxes. But the fact is, we have already gone over the so-called fiscal cliff because our total national debt is in excess of $16 trillion, the same size as our economy. And that doesn't even include all of our debt, not to mention the fact that our debt was downgraded last year because of their lack of action in dealing with this problem. Let's get back to talking about what is really going to solve our fiscal problems, and that is a balanced budget amendment with a cap on the size of government to the Constitution. Families have to live within their means. Most school districts, communities, and states have to live within their means as well. The long-term solution starts with Congress passing a balanced budget amendment and allowing the states to ratify it. A balanced budget could be phased in over a period of time if necessary, but at least it gets at the structural root of the problem. The only path to a smaller government is to restrain every Congress by requiring a balanced budget and limiting the growth of government. Remember George Washington's prescient words about the debt spoken in 1796 in his farewell address. As a very important source of strength and security, cherish public credit. One method of preserving it is to use it as sparingly as possible. This is Sarah Steelman with SarahNet Radio.
Tune in again next week for another segment of Steel Resolve right here on the Palin Update. And don't forget, the Palin Update, including Steel Resolve, is now on demand and available for download. So just head to SarahNetRadio.net, pick the show you want to hear, and you can listen anywhere, anytime. Well, that'll just about do it for this edition of the Palin Update on SarahNet Radio. Visit SarahNetRadio.net for continuing coverage of Governor Palin. I want to thank Sarah Steelman and everyone here at SarahNet Radio. Thanks to Bo Whittenton, and thank you for listening today. Please be sure to join us next time for another edition of the Palin Update. I'm Kevin Scholla. Happy Hanukkah. Have a pleasant day.